Giovanni Abadi. I'm here with co-host
David Momachuk.
Our show highlights local Windsor, Essex, Detroit environmental groups. We interview local groups to get the word out, help them potentially get donations and volunteers. If people want to join the show, be a part of it, send us events, or just be on the show as guests, we can be reached through email at www.cjam@gmail.com, or you can phone or text us at 519-300-2063. And tonight we're joined by guest Leo Silvestri, who's the Monarch King locally, I think, and Butterfly Man. But he's going to talk about pollinators, monarchs, and plants and natural history of the area. So, Leo, why don't you introduce yourself? Maybe tell us a little about yourself and what got you interested in this hobby.
Thanks for having me, Giovanni and David. Yeah, my name is Leo Silvestri. I've been in Windsor since 1970, and I was painting homes until 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago actually, when something funny happened right in my backyard. I saw what is called now a caterpillar, but at that time I thought it was a green worm. So it got me curious anyways, just by seeing this little guy eating from the parsley plant and then wandering around the concrete, the cement back patio. And I thought to myself, what should I do with this thing? Should I let a bird pick it up and, eat it, or put it back in the parsley plant? And that's what I did. My instinct told me to save him, and I put it back in my parsley pot. And then I went back into the house because it was a late July, early July actually, hot, sunny day. And an hour later, I went back outside again. I was a smoker back then. And I saw him again, wandering around the cement. So the second time I put it back, I went back to the house after after seeing him the third time. I really had to go to the computer and try to find out why this guy doesn't want to eat my parsley anymore. So in Google search, I typed in, why does my green worm once leave my parsley plant? And this is the part when I do the slides presentation, people break a laugh, because they cannot see an old man type in a green worm. But you know what? It brought me to a website where an actual black person at that time that I ended up with, he had the same type of caterpillar inside a jar, and he was releasing it as the butterfly emerged from one of them. So he was releasing the butterfly, and I kept watching the caterpillar eating the parsley right inside the jar, believe it or not. Things that we don't do anymore. Nobody does the jar raising. We have so many habitats at Amazon that most of us, we all use those anyways. But after that, I got kind of interested in this butterfly because 2 weeks later I did see it flying by, and I knew that's what the caterpillar transformed to. And the following year, instead of buying 1 or 2 parsley that we usually use for home, I ended up buying a dozen plants. And I fed, so many caterpillars. We raised as many eggs as we could find. Of course, that's what everybody else does when they first started this thing, whether it's swallowtails or whether it's monarch. Everybody wants to do as much as they can and save as many as they can. And then later we learned that actually that is not the right way to help them. But nevertheless, by the second year in 2017, I needed to know something more about this swallowtail business. And instead of typing in, any silly names, I use the word butterfly. And once I use the word butterfly, well, the whole new world opened up, because now I've seen so many different butterflies, and in particular, this Monarch thing. The more I read about it, and the more I fell in love with it, because how can such a little thing weighing less than a gram can do 4,000 to 5,000 kilometers to Mexico every year in the fall, and then come back in the spring down south United States, lay eggs, mate, and then die, like 8 to 9 months since it was born. So that curiosity led me to investigate a little further, and I found out that now, instead of parsley, I'm going to need milkweed. So by knowing what milkweed wasn't, I had to start calling nursing, flower shops and why not. And they all start laughing at me and says, Leo, why would you want to buy milkweed when people are actually buying chemical to destroy them? And that's basically what they were telling me. Until I got hold of a lady, Gina Pannunzio, at Urca in Essex, and she says, Leo, if you want a milkweed at this time of the year, your best bet would be to call Vic and Darlene from Native Trees and Plants in Amherstburg. They might have some milkweed for you. By that time, I already ordered 2 online anyways, and so I went to Amherstburg and ordered 8 more, so I ended up with 10 milkweed plants. I follow exactly what I read on the internet, and there I was, milkweed and potting in pots in my backyard, hot summer, and I kept watching, for something to happen. I didn't see anything happen the whole year. So when I tell these people during the presentations that, yes, you might invest, 40 to 50 bucks these days for 10 or 15 plants, and then by the end of the season, you might not even see a Monarch. That's what happened to me, except 2 weeks into September, as I was watering my front garden, I noticed a big Monarch caterpillar, an Instar 5, which means in 2-3 days, those they usually turn into pupa, and then you wait 8 to 10 days and they became butterfly. So when I released the Monarch butterfly after watching the whole summer on my 10 plants, it kind of made it all worthwhile. I mean, that was my happy moment. So the following winter, then of course I did some more research and more studies online, of course, and I learned how to grow my own milkweed, because this it didn't make any sense to me, to spend this kind of money for things that should grow on its own. The only thing I needed to know was where to get the seeds and learn how to germinate them. And everything is on YouTube, as on Google, actually. So you can type in how to germinate any seeds, and then also how to grow milkweed, all together. And from that day on, basically, by germinating and growing some of my own at home in my front porch, I also learned that you can actually remove it from the wild, where the patches are so dense, is what we call the jungle garden, that nobody wants to have in their backyard. But out in the field, unfortunately, nobody thins them out, so these plants, they grow just about everywhere. And then there were areas under construction at the time, so me and my best friend, Quirino Gesuale, we went and we started digging up right in front of the bulldozer. I held one hand up while Quirino was digging, and we removed as many as we could before they were all lost anyways. And guess what? We brought them to people's backyard. There was actually people waiting for mature milkweed plants to land in their gardens, because they all want to see Monarch, but they didn't know how to grow milkweed. And so by doing this type of activity, it got me to a point that they got my nickname, Milkweed Man. That's why they call me the Milkweed Man. And And it feels good sometimes. You go to a nursery, shop that have been growing flowers for years and years, and you tell them to germinate a few milkweed seeds, and they can't do it. So after I learned how to do it, I pass on that information, and now everybody's growing it and making money, of course, and attracting more customers to sell their own flowers.
Well, I mean, you started me on the kick because I came to your house. Myself and my dear friend Deborah, we came over. You gave us some milkweed. We planted it. You had them all potted for us, and we grow. I have them all in my garden. She does now. We have swamp and common milkweed. Butterflies are coming out. She had more. She had actually a butterfly bush, which attracted different species as well. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit because you started a couple things. So Leo's more than just the Monarch, the milkweed man. He's very knowledgeable about a lot of different types of butterflies and plants that attract them. So you had spoken about the parsley. So that, I think most butterflies are kind of reliant on certain species. So parsley attracts, did you say swallowtails?
Yeah, the black swallowtail.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And the milkweed is for the monarch.
For the monarch.
Because monarchs only feed off of milkweed, correct?
Yes.
All right. So as well, going back, you were, now this passion of yours, which has turned into a passion for a lot of people in Windsor, Essex, and all over, because you go around talking to schools and seniors residents and just everywhere, events, right? Horticultural societies. Again, Via Italia, you have that event every year. Is that on again this year?
Yes.
Do you know the date yet?
That's August 25th, I believe. It's always the last Sunday of August.
Okay, yeah.
Our Butterfly Festival.
Yeah, and that's a butterfly garden. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, right on Erie and Langlois corner.
Yeah. So, I mean, your passion has really done a lot to improve the lifespan, maybe not lifespan, but, the survival rate of monarchs. And you also mentioned about the fact of the migration. How long, David, you were going to ask this about the age?
Because I was unclear. The verbal conversation about the migration and how long it takes to go from a caterpillar to a pupa to a butterfly, and then do this travel of migration. And so I was wondering if you could go into a bit more of that detail, because it's not they don't live years, but they mate, they put eggs each year, and it's a could be up to a 9-month season, you were saying.
Yes. So let's take it from the remigrants. What they call remigrants are the ones that spend their winters in Mexico.
The what?
A remigrant. They emigrate back. Remigrant.
Re-emigrate?
Re-emigrate. Yeah.
The re-immigration was right, because
that's the word.
The term. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry about
but they usually start in the north.
They start in Mexico in the spring, okay? February, March. They fly north as far as Texas and all the southern states. Now, sometimes they've already made before they left the overwintering sites in Mexico, and sometimes they made while they're in Texas. So that is the older generation that went to Mexico the previous fall. Mm-hmm. Okay, so once they lay the eggs, in a couple of weeks, those butterflies will die, 2 to 3 weeks at best, and they already lived 8 to 9 months.
And how many eggs would they lay?
They can lay anywhere between 300 to 400 eggs.
Wow.
Okay, so once the eggs hatch, then the caterpillar will eat on the local milkweed plants, and the butterfly will eclose or will be born, let's say. It will keep flying north. Another 1.5 or 2 latitudes. Say we go by miles, 200 miles, and they keep going north, and then again they're going to mate, they're going to lay more eggs over there, and this time you will have the second generation born on that level. And then after that, they just keep mating and keep going north from the Rockies all the way to the East Atlantic. And you will have the third generation born, and it will keep flying north. When we usually get to the second one in this area, sometime if the weather it has a lot to do with it, maybe we'll end up with a third. But most part we get the second generation in our area, and sometime like this year is actually happening for the first time in I don't know how many years. We are getting the first generation, so which means the ones that were born down in Texas or the southern states have been sighted in Ojibwe 2 days ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the Point Pelee 3 days ago. And in Ebbsburg, another of our members posted on the Facebook page 2 days ago. But she only saw it flight. So we cannot be sure when you see a brown monarch flying, because, it could be just about anything else. There's a red admiral that looks like them, comma, question marks, anything brown and orange, sometimes it resembles a monarch. But the ones in the Ojibwe, it was photographed by, one of the
naturalists,
of the place. So going back on the third generation now, when they hit our area, see, we are responsible, the whole northwest, northeast part of the North America, for 19% of the monarch migration.
19 or 90?
19.
Okay.
Canada in general,
right,
and all southwestern Ontario with North Ontario. We're on 19% of the overall migration, because our fourth generation, it close, it's born in our area. So when we release the last generation, that's when that tagging, that we were mentioned earlier, comes into place, and then they go to Mexico, and they'll spend the winter over there, and the following spring they'll start the cycle all over again.
Okay, so the ones that are born here, they go all the way down to Mexico.
The fourth generation.
The fourth generation.
Right, but they go all the way down to Mexico.
Yes.
The ones coming back up stop and turn different generations.
Yes, and die.
But that fourth generation comes back as well.
Yes.
On the last trip.
Yes,
yeah.
It comes back to the south of the United States.
Yeah.
We don't get to see them
okay.
up here. No.
It doesn't go.
No.
Yeah.
There have been years where
a cycle. That's a cycle.
Yes, it's a cycle. But there have been years where the ones that spend the winter in Mexico have been spotted as close as the Ohio Valley. But that's very rare.
Yeah. Because very rare. You're giving us this information because, it's not just guessing now, because I've been to your event and you actually tag them. Like not like a bird, they banned birds, but monarchs, you actually put a little sticker on it, right?
Yes.
So let's just go a little bit into that. Who's responsible for that? Is that Canadian Wildlife Service?
No,
or?
that is, it's done by monarchwatch.org. They started the tagging program back in 92, I believe, and they've been running it, ever since. And so what happens is we order those tags from Monarch Watch during the winter months, and then we get them delivered according to the latitude where the migration starts. So an area where it starts earlier, like north of us, they get it maybe by end of June, first week of July, and then farther down we get it the second or third week of July, because our migratory are still caterpillar by the time the guys up north have already say goodbye to the migratory,
right?
Because the weather gets cold, and then the monarch keeps coming south. And this is where you will go to Point Pelee and watch them congregate on those trees once they start traveling together.
Have you heard any, I know there's probably some reports out there, have you seen any reports on this, what's the success? Because I thought the monarchs I thought they were improving, but I thought recently there was a report out that they were declining.
Yes, well, what they call the Mexican count during the winter it went down. It went down big time, 0.90 of an hectare, which is about 2.5 acres of bush covered, of trees covered with monarchs, let's say, okay? It's low. But then again, due to the fact that these little insects are very, very tough, they can recolonize themselves like nobody's business once they start coming back north. They've been up and downs throughout the years, never as low, as 2013 or 14 when they had all the major cold weather during the colony, in the colony there in Mexico, and they had a very high rate of mortality. But other than that, we're not concerned about the numbers. We're lucky here because Windsor and Essex County, I always tell our members in our Facebook group, don't worry, as long as you did your thing last year, they will always come back to your garden, For some strange reason, it always happens that we do get them, early on than some other places in the States that hardly ever see a monarch during the summer. But that's another thing that I'm going to have to take it to some, scientists to do a study on that. The ones that I'm doing now, I'll mention that later, it's totally different, but very valid according to the meeting that I had with one of the Canadian top scientists. So.
Okay, yeah, we're going to talk about that a little later.
Yeah.
Is this ready for them to be here?
Yes.
This is an early...
This is, I believe, a second earliest on record, because there's been another year that was on record for April 17 or something like that. Right. Yeah, it happens.
But I mean, it's also depending on the weather. You get a storm, might blow a bunch in, so they kind of be an anomaly as opposed to a regular event, right?
Yeah.
So, that when they arrive is, just, I guess, depends on what's going on. Yeah. Weather-wise, it's not really a statement of what is going to happen in the future.
No, it's always a guess.
Mm-hmm. Related to attracting them. So what's around now? Do you know what species might be around now?
Right now, there's a whole bunch of red admiral. From what I understand, that they were coming from south in storms. I mean, hundreds, even thousands of these bird watchers on Point Pelee, they were reporting tens of thousands of red admiral. Never heard before. Some experts, they went back on the records from different websites that did these studies. They could never find that many red admiral altogether throughout, the last 40, 50 years. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I've got 3 of them in my backyard, in my garden, and I've never seen them before.
But they're not, because I've seen them early in the spring as well, so I thought they kind of were overwintering here, like their cocoon or their pupa.
No, I believe those are the comma and what's the other one that I mentioned?
Question mark?
The question mark, yeah. See, some of these butterflies, a lot of people don't realize why we see so many early on when it's still cold, and sometimes...
Question mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, the question mark, yeah.
A question mark butterfly.
Yeah, question mark butterfly. And what happens is one of them, don't quote me, could be the comma, could be the question mark, it will overwinter as a live butterfly, a full adult butterfly, and it will hide in the leaves. So when you hear on Facebook, don't rake the leaves, don't blow the leaves, don't do this on the leaves, that's the message, because a lot of our pollinators, whether they're bees or whether they're butterflies or caterpillars or whatever you, because different species overwinter at different stage, okay? Some even as caterpillar, live, others as pupa. Now, when you overwinter as pupa, like the swallowtails, nothing happens, because even if the weather freezes, they're out there attached to a little piece of wood. I've seen pictures of snow 6 feet tall, and the caterpillar was just 1 inch away from being covered by snow. I guess Mother Nature gives them some kind of antifreeze in their body. I don't know.
Well, like tree frogs, right? I mean, they freeze, their whole body freezes, so maybe the insects are the same. But yeah, so I was wondering, I thought it was the pupa because again, early spring, you'll see the red admirals around. So I thought they actually stayed in Canada, just like some moths, right? They'll burrow into the bark of trees or something. And then when the weather warms up, they...
But they're everywhere, though, not just in Canada. Even the one in South, usually they stick around within a certain range of, even though it is a wider range that they're covering. But nobody has ever heard of this movement of these red admirals. I can't wait to see them in my garden because I get to see 3 or 4 during the summer on a daily basis, mind you. They come and eat, and 1 or 2. But then this year it's been unbelievable, So hey, that's good, That means the climate change is doing something good for some of the species, at least.
Yeah, that is very, very true. We're about to go to a break for public service announcement, but before we do, I just wanted to mention that the City of Windsor greenhouse, located at 2449 McDougall Street, just by the railroad tracks.
By Jackson Park.
It's
in the back of Jackson Park, behind the Windsor Arena. That's where their greenhouse is. Not Windsor Arena, I'm sorry.
Football stadium?
Thank you, yeah. And Saturday, tomorrow, or rather 2 days from now, Saturday, May 4th, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., they're having a big sale at the greenhouse on McDougall. Excellent. Yeah, Leo, you want to mention a couple of events you have going on before we go to break?
Well, right now, the closest one that we have, that's fine, is May the 11th. We're doing the plant sale with LaSalle Horticultural Society, and they're doing at St. Andrew's Church. The address is 205 Loria Drive. I mean, this is huge. I've never been there, but Jen Dugdale, she wanted me to be there this year because there's been a lot of demand for milkweed and information, that we have introduced in our program, that she doesn't feel like she has enough time to talk to people about all this. So we're going over there. On the Sunday, June the 16th, that's another important event. It's called the Egg of the Butterfly Workshop. This will be the 3rd annual. And this time we are going to Amherstburg for that. It's been hosted by the LaSalle Horticultural Society and the Amherstburg Horticultural Society together. If anybody is interested in that, they have to contact Jen Dugdale at the LaSalle Horticultural Society for more information. I'm just a speaker there, so this lady, they do wonderful work organizing it, a bunch of food, morning and lunch. We can go over the other if you want,
Well, we're going to go to break, and when we come back, we'll talk some more.
Okay.
So you're listening to Watershed Watchers with myself, Giovanni Abadi.
And David Momachuk.
Where our guest is Leo Silvestri, our milkweed man, the monarch and butterfly expert in the community. If you want to be on the show, you have any environmental events, you can text us or phone us at 519-300-2063 or email us at www.cjam@gmail.com. So we're going to take a little break here, and then we'll be back and talk more about our pollinators and how to attract them. So thanks for listening.
Drivers who use handheld devices such as cell phones are 4 times more likely to get into crashes serious enough to cause injury or even death. Brain injuries such as those caused by distracted driving kill more people under the age of 20 than any other causes combined. When you text and drive, you not only put your own life at risk, but the lives of others on the street around you. Go to leavethephonealone.ca, take the pledge to only drive and never text, and help to put an end to distracted driving. Everyone deserves to travel on our roads without fear.
tune in every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. to CJAM's Top 12 Countdown. I'm your host, Taya, and every week we will be counting down CJAM's most played albums of the week. You'll hear from a variety of genres, lots of local music, and our programmers' favorite tunes. CJAM's Top 12 only plays the best of the best, so tune in every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. only on CJAM 99.1 FM, reaching higher ground in Windsor and in Detroit.
CJAM 99.1 FM programming is hosted almost exclusively by community volunteers. The views and opinions expressed on the following program are that of the host and their guests, and do not necessarily reflect the views of CJAM FM. For more information and resources, visit our website at cjam.ca. The views and opinions expressed on the following program are that of the host and their guests, and do not necessarily reflect the views of CJAM FM.
Okay, welcome back to Watershed Watchers on 99.1 FM CJAM. I'm co-host Giovanni Abadi with
David Momachuk. David Momachuk.
Sorry, I had the mic off. And our special guest, Leo Silvestri, the milkweed man, local butterfly enthusiast.
Here in the studio, actually. We've been doing a lot of interviews over the phone, but Leo is actually here at the University of Windsor radio station, and we appreciate him doing that, because that type of conversation is kind of a treat sometimes to have the interaction. And so thanks for making your way downtown.
My pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks, Leo, for being here, taking the time.
No problem.
So we're going to go a little bit here, because Leo is, he has quite the setup at his place. I've been there. He's got the garage all geared up to raise all his different butterflies. He sells and gives away milkweed and other plants. So Leo, the common swamp and what's the other milkweed? The common milkweed, swamp
butterfly
milkweed?
weed.
Butterfly weed. Is that a milkweed?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's weed. Yeah, it's what it's called tuberosa, the one with orange and yellow flowers.
All right.
Very pretty.
And that's for those are for monarchs.
Monarchs. Yeah.
What are the ones you suggest for other butterflies if people want to track different things?
Well, there's different type of butterflies. I mean, the list is long. I don't think we can cover them all. But the most popular, I would say, in this area are always the black swallowtail, the tiger swallowtail, and also the eastern tiger. Now, why we fall in love with the black swallowtails is because of the huge amount in our gardens. And they'll eat just about any herb that most people plant in their garden, such as parsley, rue, fennel, dill, carrot leaves, Queen Anne's lace. These guys will eat anything, okay? And if you invite them in for a plate of pasta, they might even come in, to have some pasta. But kidding aside, they're very popular and very easy to entertain. You give them a little parsley there inside one of those cages, they turn into a butterfly, and it makes the kids, it makes the older people like me happy.
Do they feed on? I've seen photos of like rotting bananas. Are there certain species that feed on that? Or
yeah, those are literally for all kinds of butterflies. It was strange for me to learn that when I started this thing, because rotten banana stinks, and so does orange. Or anything that is extremely ripe, okay?
Any fruit?
But yeah, any fruit. So as long as you mash it and you put it on a plate in your garden, chances are the butterflies will go there for a meal, believe it or not. So it's all good. But the giant swallowtail, which is the largest swallowtail flying in North America, everybody has a pride for it. So if you can get yourself a little hop tree or an ash, sometime even a rue, it's one of the herbs for the black swallowtail, they will also lay eggs on that. And when you release one of those butterflies, man, it's like a 5-inch, spread, wing spread. It's really something. But for the other type of butterflies, again, the best thing is to Google, what is the host plant for butterflies of southwestern Ontario, let's say. There's over 50. And you can pick and choose the type of tree or the type of host plant that they like. And if you plant that in your garden, if you have room for big trees or mid-sized trees, you can attract all kinds of, butterflies.
Are they all... So I know Janet Arsenault at Chalet Studios out in, McGregor or Amherstburg. Yeah. She raises a variety of butterflies. So you've showed me how to do the monarchs. I've raised monarchs. That you've actually given me the caterpillars, and I've raised them into butterflies. Is it the same process? Because it's not that difficult in the sense, you always have to go out and get fresh milkweed and that sort of thing. But that's relatively easy, and you keep them in, the laundry basket, or I know that you say depends on how fine the netting, the mesh is for survival. Is it the same process for other species? Exactly the same. She has the same enclosures that she uses for the monarch. The only difference is she's on I don't know how many, what is the 2 acres or 3 acres of property. Yeah, with a lot of natural habitat and proper species. They plant trees 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and now they're huge. Yeah. And to their knowledge, before, they never experienced this until they start doing the monarch and the swallowtails with us. And then they realized that some of these trees, they attract Cecropium moth, Polyphemus moth, different type of butterflies, different type of moths that most people never heard of, And she falls in love with all of them because the food is right there. Right. She doesn't have to plant anything for them. And very successful. She's raised a lot. Oh yeah. Have you done raised other ones besides monarchs? The swallowtails. I've done the black swallowtail and the giant and tiger, both swallowtails. So their pupas, is it still like a chrysalis? How does that work? Same thing, just like the black swallowtail, just like the monarch. The monarch is shaped different. Right. The other guys are all pretty well, look like a piece of wood, stuck on a stick. But they're still hanging, though? Oh, yeah. They're hanging by the front and the back, until the butterfly comes out. Okay, interesting. Yeah. You sell, and you've given away plenty, but I think you need to sell them, the work you do. Some. What kind of species of plants do you sell? Right now, we're trying to concentrate. By the way, I heard David mentioning the city parks plant sale. Yeah, the garden. I will suggest... Or the greenhouse on McDougall. Yes. I will suggest anybody, if you have the patient to stand in line to get in through the gate at 8 o'clock, I remember in the old location, the line was all the way around Ottawa Street. But the minute that they opened the gate, within 10 minutes, we were all inside. And everybody was grabbing whatever, they got there for. And their prices were unbelievably low. They still are. Believe it or not, some of the plants that I bought 5-6 years ago on the other location, they're still selling it for $5. So, yeah, because prices when you try and manage a garden or take on a hobby project like this, that's one of the reasons why I haven't come by your house and responded to your marketing, but I've heard of it, but I just know that it's just one thing's gonna lead to another, and then there's another $5 here, another $20 there, and then you rearrange it, and it takes hours to kind of learn and ask new questions. So that's what I've been like in my vegetable garden over the last 5-10 years. It's but it's manageable, and it's a fun thing to do. It gets you in touch with nature and the instincts of, the butterflies in my backyard. I was telling a story a few weeks ago. They really have an interesting interaction, even with the bees and the other insects. They're all kind of giving each other their space. They play around, they dance with each other, they take breaks and rest, and just kind of, and then obviously when the rain comes and the different weather, they must take shelter somewhere and
and the big trees.
What have you noticed with some of your interactions in terms of their personality, if I could say it that way?
No, that's very interesting. Actually, that is one of my next project. I got it on paper, half done, but I'm waiting for the winter to finish that project. I just met actually one of the top scientists in Canada that is going to take my latest writing article that I made there, the mystery, the Monarch migration mystery. Okay, there's information there that it blows people's mind, especially some of the scientists who have been at it, for so many years. There are things that they haven't figured out yet, and I don't want to, brag about that.
Okay.
But anyway, the reason I say it is because I got response from not only from Dr.
Greg
Mitchell, but from others as well. Things that sometimes science overlooks. Like they go after the most complicated studies, but they forget the simple one. And those simple ones sometimes, because the information has come from someone from the field that spends days on the field. We don't use a lab, everything that we learn, it's either by reading their articles, or experts' articles and scientists, or things that we observe ourselves while we're in the field, things, the way they eat, like you said, the way they fly, which flower they like better, which one they don't like. So when your space is limited and you are on the cement, as Giovanni can attest for that, you have to be very accurate picking the right flowers. Otherwise, you're spending time, money, and watering them and everything else, and nobody goes around it. So I nail it down, basically, at the beginning with 6 of my favorite flowers that I saw the most action in 2018. So the Mexican sunflower, the butterfly bush, the anise hyssop, the cornflower, the salvia, and zinnia. These, now you can change the salvia with the black-eyed Susan. This was Janet's favorite because, you see, in her garden, in her oasis, they prefer salvia versus, black-eyed Susan. But black-eyed Susan, though, does better in my case because it likes the drought inside the pot, 14-inch pot. So I see quite a few of them, and even the bees go in there. Anise hyssop is a little plant that most people don't even know what it is. And until I post in our group a little movie that I took in my backyard with over 100 bees around it, they did not believe it. They didn't even want to know what it was. The minute that they saw that movie and other pictures, then everybody's looking for anise hyssop.
Now, we'll scan this and post it. Your flyer here with all the different plants on our Facebook page, Watershed Watchers, on Facebook. We're talking about the concrete jungle a little bit because you're on Erie Street, and then it's rather developed there, and you have a lot of concrete on your property. But you've done a masterful job, right? Because you've made it some are raised gardens, but you also have them on wheels. So
yes.
You roll them around.
Yeah, I can move them around according to the shade, according to how the weather
is.
The weather and everything else.
Are these all native to Ontario, these species?
Some are native, some are non-natives. Now, that flyer, we have it in the native version, which means the 3 milkweed at the top are the same, that we recommend, 5 to 10 plants. And the other 6 flowers are all native. But either way, whether you go 80-20 or 70-30, that is the recommendation from most experts.
What is that
70% native, 30% non-native.
Oh, okay.
Because in some instances, in some area, some of the native flowers will dry up right about the migratory time, in the fall. So, but that's when we need nectar for these, migrator birds or whatever, butterflies in this case, and even the bees, before they go into their hibernation for the winter underground or wherever they spend their winter. My bees in our garden, their last meal is always on the Mexico sunflower, because this thing keeps blooming until frost. So who's there to say, And I ask this question to other scientific, other scientists, and they all said the same thing. They says, no, don't kid yourself. He says, you're doing good. If you can keep that average, 70, 30, 80, 20, you make both the world happy. Unfortunately, there is some people are just stuck on native 100%, and then try to make them understand that the average person that is used to go to the box stores and buy $200 worth of flowers that attracts nothing, okay? It's better just to get them going with one or two natives, and then he'll understand. He will see the values once he planted that plant, in his garden. But if you tell him right out of the gate, throw everything you have, trash everything and go out and buy, $200, $300, whatever dollar value you want to put in it, all native plants, well, that person might resent that and say, well, who are you, to tell me what to do.
Yeah, so, we understand that we've gone through a journey of environmentalism where you hear ideas like that, and it's very difficult to understand how to think about that, because it is going to have to change your habits, whether for me it was composting or not cutting my grass during the month of April, let alone some people are in this competition to see how long they can have their May go before they cut their grass, and other people have been cutting their grass the whole time. But this helps the pollinators is the idea, and it took me a long time to understand that and feel comfortable enough to let the lawn grow naturally, so that the pollinators and insects can mature.
Well, it's unfortunate, right? Because city bylaws and municipal bylaws make you kind of. It's the same with, like, in my opinion, habitats for like frogs and like frogs, turtles, toads. They make you take the water out of everything because they're worried about mosquitoes and that sort of thing. So you end up killing off all your amphibians in the area. So, I mean, sometimes we have to look back at some of the legislation we create, related to cutting lawns and everything.
This is what we have to do. We have to share awareness and education of the truth to these dynamics of habitat and species. It's a lot to learn, and sometimes it does require you to change some of your habits. Even I'm sure your lawn. It's got to be like a farm inside the city. That's a lot to manage. All those things, your tools, your places. What have you changed over the years in your property where you manage all your gear?
Well, because it's everything in cement, what I basically did, I went from the smaller pots into larger one, and I built wood containers, say 2 feet by 3 feet, and I increased the dirt for some plants that they have deep taproot, as high as 3 feet of dirt, let's say. Little compost here and there, but it's usually the same over and over again. Mine, they're pretty well, the perennials, they always come back anyways, and then I just add a few annual to start the new season. But it doesn't take much, if the person has a willing to attract pollinators in general, not just butterflies. And mind you, when we plant for butterflies, we're actually doing the 3 Bs, as they say, birds, butterflies, and birds, right? Yeah. Bees, butterflies, and birds. So you plant for one, you plant for all.
And What about your water management as well? Do you have an interesting water collection system or distribution? What's that like?
I pick some of the raining water from the garage with 2 barrels, and I go through that, very quick during the hot months like July and August. But then again, sometimes I use the self-watering system with a bottle. 2-liter bottle or 1.5-liter bottle for the smaller plant. It worked for 1 year, and then I'm constantly watering these little pots to keep everything alive during the summer, so that hopefully we'll have nectar in the late summer, early fall.
Related to the monarchs and keeping them, growing them when they're larvae, they're caterpillars and they're in your enclosures. How the leaves? So you need to they feed on milkweed leaves. Yeah. So I usually go around. You can go around the farm fields or natural areas along rail lines or something like that, and pick leaves. How long does the leaf last? Like how long what do you do with it? Can you put it in the fridge? What's your process?
Yeah, once you remove it from a plant, from a field, we usually bring it home, wash it, make sure that there's no dirt, no
chemicals,
no chemicals, and no spiders. No, the chemicals, you can spot them a mile away. I mean, if they're yellow on the field, don't pick those.
Right.
You always go with the green ones. Then we pat dry them a little bit and put them in a Ziploc bag. Mine usually lasts between 2 to 3 weeks.
You put them in the fridge, right?
Yes, in the fridge, yeah. But once you start feeding, quite a few caterpillars, and then they go through fast anyways, and then we just get in some more, whether it's from a field or whether it's from a friend garden that has a lot of common milkweed. In my situation there, I've tried the first couple of years, but when you keep a common milkweed locked into a pot or a little container, it doesn't do too good after the 3rd year, so might as well just forget it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It needs room because it grows by rime zone, right? So it wants to spread, it wants to travel, through the garden. And unfortunately, it cannot travel through the cement. So I do a lot better with swamp and the butterfly weed. Occasionally, I use some of the annuals too, then at the end of the season, we just throw the plant away.
So you've given me, again, caterpillars, and I can identify the caterpillars, but related to an egg, I can't identify them, one, so sometimes it might be something else, and it might not be an egg. Can you describe the egg, and then if you see an egg and do you take the leaf off right away? Do you let it sit? What's that process?
Yeah, first of all, the egg, it's shaped like a baseball, okay? It's pointed, so you cannot miss it. It's not round, it's not a different color. It's always ivory between white and ivory color. And if you look very close, even with the magnifying lenses, one time you see one, then you can spot them,
It's like a cone, you mean? Like a cone?
Yeah, just like a baseball, oval.
Okay.
It's oval. So the point will tell you.
A baseball is round and...
Oh, I'm sorry, football.
Oh, a football, thank you.
I'm
okay.
sorry.
That makes
football,
more sense.
Yeah. So it's pointed, and I'll tell you right away.
Okay.
And besides, there's not too many ivory color leaves on a milkweed leaf, like eggs on a leaf.
Okay.
There's only the monarch that lays.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Sometimes you might get confused with the milk zap. Like the
Right.
milk dries up and it looks like an egg. That's what we all go through in the beginning. But
so you can say you find the egg, you can pluck the leaf off.
Yeah, we take the leaf off and then we bring it into a little plastic container under a moist paper, and we'll wait 3-4 days to hatch.
So it's fine.
And
it's fine to sit that long. Okay, I thought the leaf might die and then...
No.
Okay.
All right. People that do raise, usually they do their homework. They have a lot of information, available to them.
So, okay, cool. So we'll let you. It's like 5 minutes left in the show. I know you have some things you'd like to talk about. So.
Okay. Well, first of all, we do have a website and we do have a Facebook page. So our Facebook page, it's called the Monarch Butterfly Enthusiast of Windsor, Essex, and Chatham, Kent. You're free to join that or check out what we're doing. It is a private, unfortunately. So if you do not join, you can see who's in there and what the pictures, that members are posting. And that is because of the Facebook craziness, of weird people that they get everywhere to create the problems. So we went private a couple of years ago. And the other thing, you can get all the information on, that's my personal website, Save the Monarch, butterfly.ca. Save the Monarch, butterfly.ca. That's where you'll find all the information of our group and the different things that you want to create, pollinators for your garden and things like that. And lastly, I want to thank all our members, local members of our group for their wonderful job that they've been doing for the last 5-6 years now since we created the Facebook group, for all their efforts, all their hard work throughout events, throughout common planting the milkweed, as well as taking care of the butterflies as a whole. One thing I promised last night on the post was to release something that I'm going to do post tomorrow, maybe, or the day after anyways. After 1 hour virtual private meeting with Dr. Greg Mitchell the other day, this is the Canadian scientist which is part of the trinational group that are doing the monarch conservationist of the 3 nations, U.S., Mexico, and Canada. So he's not the type of scientist that you will find in any university doing, teaching just his own area, work that he does. This is strictly due to the fact that he is very passionate about the monarch. And during our conversation, I did most of the listening anyways. He did ask me a couple of questions, of course, I did some talk too. But one of my written article, he got interested in, and therefore he was going to look into to see what can come out of it, what can he recommend to the trinational. But the one thing that he told me when I asked him, what can we do, us here, Canadian in general, in the province of Ontario, to help you and your colleague to understand more about the monarch conservation, his words were simply 2-3 words. iNaturalist.ca, Monarch, what's it called, the other one? Monarch Mission, Monarch iPhone Mission, and Journey North, which most people already know. You need to report anything that flies into your garden. If you want to keep reading monarchs in the future, you need to report anything you can find on those 3 websites, and we'll get to you with the next post. Thank you, Giovanni.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Leo. Go ahead.
Go
ahead, David.
I was just going to quickly mention, we got 1 minute left here. There's a lot of events going on here in Windsor. Jane's Walks, WindsorJanesWalk.ca, JanesWalk.org. Giovanni, what about you?
Oh, nothing. I just more, again, what Leo said about iNaturalist. Go to iNaturalist.ca. This is Watershed Watchers on CJAM 99.1 FM, and you can reach us at 519-300-2063. Thank you.
Sound.
I guess global warming would be the next big issue. Obama won't be very effective at, I think. And you know who I think the true victims of global warming are?
What did I find in the mailbox but this? For those of you who can't see what this is, it is the only campaign literature of any size or depth.
My favorite animal is the manatee, the sea cow. The manatee is endangered with extinction, and I think it's because it's out of shape.
Listen to CJAM.